Welcome to the Fort Hill High School Class of 2025 Virtual Awards Recognition. I am Candy Cannon, Principal of Fort Hill High School, and this evening I am thrilled to present the numerous honors bestowed upon our students for their fine achievements. Tonight we will recognize the achievements of students who have gone above and beyond as members of the Class of 2025. To those watching, I thank each of you for tuning in to see your children, grandchildren, peers, classmates, and young leaders of our school and community who are being recognized this evening. I could not be more proud to serve as the principal of such an awesome group of young adults. Without further ado, let's begin with the seniors who are receiving the countywide accolade awards for the 2025 school year. The following students have achieved the distinct honor of graduating in the top 10% of the graduating class of 2025 for Fort Hill High School. Each of these students have taken the courses required to also earn them the Honors Diploma designation. Jovi Catherine Brightfeller. Selena Dawn Cage. Nash Edward Castle. Charlotte Marie Crawford. Addison Jean Mallow. Rory Penner Martz. Madeline Dawn Maddox. Cameron Nicole Rice. Kaylin Elizabeth Robertson. Jalen Brooke Robertson. Sierra Marie Ross. Gunnar Lee Wilson. Congratulations to the Fort Hill High School accolade winners for the class of 2025. At this time, we will begin the recognition of our seniors. Students at Fort Hill High School have the opportunity to win numerous awards and recognitions for their excellent performance in our classrooms and on our athletic teams. We wish to recognize those students whose achievements have resulted in the awarding of AP and Honors Awards, Athletic Awards, School, Community, and alumni-based monetary awards and scholarships managed by the Fort Hill High School Scholarship Fund. The Fort Hill High School Scholarship Fund was established in 2009 with the mission to invest in the lives, dreams, and futures of Fort Hill High School students by providing funds to enable students to complete their education goals. Some of the scholarships from this fund are renewable upon the successful completion of the requirements established within the scholarship. Without further ado, the Fort Hill High School Guidance Department will present the recipients of this year's award.
Hi, I'm Sydney Sibley, a school counselor at Fort Hill High School.
Hi, I'm Abby Twig. I am also a school counselor at Fort Hill High School. And tonight, we are pleased to present to you the Class of 2025 Senior Award winners.
Ian Cooper Abbey. Ian is this year's recipient of the Van E. Goss Athletic Memorial Award. Autumn Louise Abel. Autumn is one of the 3 recipients of this year's W. Bruce Lynn Scholarships in the amount of $1,000. This award is managed by Fort Hill High School. Zainab Ayad Ahmed. Zainab is this year's recipient of the Class of 1971 scholarship in the amount of $1,200 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Kane Matthew Andrick. Kane is this year's recipient of the Allegheny Computer Services Award in the amount of $250. This award is managed by Fort Hill High School. Peyton Heath Blocker. Peyton is this year's recipient of 2 athletic awards: the Baseball Award sponsored by the Fort Hill F Club and the Troy Todd Memorial Award sponsored by Friends of Troy Todd. He is also the recipient of the Jack Chaney Memorial Baseball Scholarship in the amount of $1,600 and the Height Roofing Scholarship in the amount of $1,500. Both scholarships are managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Jovi Catherine Brightfeller. Jovi is this year's recipient of the College Algebra Award and the College Biology 102 Award. She is also the recipient of the Waltz Volleyball Award, the Girls Bowling Award, and the Brewer Family Girls Tennis Award. Additionally, Jovi is this year's recipient of the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund Board of Directors Victor D. Heisey Scholarship in the amount of $2,250. Jovi was the female selected by her classmates for the Welcome Home Award in the amount of $1,000. This scholarship award is managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Nicholas Wade Brown. Nicholas is this year's recipient of the Carl Ritchie Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $1,275 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Nevaeh Jalen Bunbazi. Nevaeh is this year's recipient of the Girls Soccer Award and the Evers Buck Smith Memorial Award for girls basketball. Nevaeh is also this year's recipient of the Penn Avenue Scholarship in the amount of $750. This scholarship is managed by Fort Hill High School. Selena Dawn Cage. Selena is this year's recipient of the Class of 1974 Scholarship in the amount of $2,000. This scholarship is managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Karis Jones Canfield. Karis is this year's recipient of the Unified Football Award for his outstanding performance in unified football. Nash Edward Castle. Nash is the recipient of this year's Buck Janke Deeds Not Words Award. He is also the recipient of the Huber Michaels Math Award in the amount of $100 managed by Fort Hill High School, the AES Warrior Run Scholarship in the amount of $2,500, and the Mark Mangus Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $2,000 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Nash was also selected by the members of his class to receive the Fort Hill High School Welcome Home Award in the amount of $1,000. This award is also managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Abigail Michelle Klein. Abby is this year's recipient of the Sansom Memorial Arts Scholarship in the amount of $775 and the Julianne Ferris Scholarship in the amount of $1,100. Both scholarships are managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Landon Nicholas Colangelo. Landon is the recipient of this year's Gornall Golf Award. Charlotte Marie Crawford. Charlotte is the recipient of the College Chemistry Award, the Honors U.S. History Award, and the English Department Award. Charlotte will serve as one of the 2 speakers during this year's commencement ceremony. Additionally, Charlotte was the female recipient of the Huber Michaels Math Award in the amount of $100. She is one of the 2 recipients of the Dally Computer Inc. Scholarship in the amount of $1,000 managed by Fort Hill High School, and the Boggs Family Scholarship in the amount of $2,600, managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Jamil Genius Daniels. Jamil is the recipient of the Paul H. Green Award, naming him as the Outstanding Senior Basketball Player and the Saquon Jenkins Memorial Award in the amount of $100, sponsored by Fort Hill High School and the Fort Hill High School community. Jabril Genius Daniels. Jabril is this year's recipient of several athletic awards, to include the James H. Hipsley Memorial Award and the John Alkire Memorial Award for football, the John J. Kavanaugh Award for basketball, and the Steve Tremble Award designating him as Outstanding Senior Athlete. He is also the recipient of the F. Club Charles Latimer Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $2,475 and the Van Goss Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $1,825. Both scholarships are managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Ava Elizabeth Davis. Ava is the recipient of this year's Russell L. Poling Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $1,825, sponsored by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Peyton Brooke Davis. Peyton is one of two recipients of the Albert and Norma Owens College Scholarships. This scholarship is in the amount of $1,000 and it is managed by Fort Hill High School. Liam Richard Dawson. Liam is the recipient of this year's Boys Bowling Award as the Outstanding Male Bowler for the 2024-2025 school year. Joshua Frederick Eft. Joshua is the recipient of the Charles A. Davis Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $1,000, and he is one of two recipients of the Albert and Norma Owens College Scholarships in the amount of $1,000. Both scholarships are managed by Fort Hill High School. Lucas Allen Evans. Lucas is this year's recipient of the Kimberly Reed Memorial Award, designating him as the Outstanding Senior Male Soccer Player. Lindsay May Fleming. Lindsay is the recipient of this year's Girls Basketball Award, naming her as the Outstanding Senior Basketball Player. Jaden Taylor Frediska. Jaden is this year's recipient of the Frediska Volleyball Award for her defensive hustle. Hunter Lucas Goldsmith. Hunter is the recipient of this year's Class of 1977 scholarship in the amount of $2,000. This award is managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Adam Timothy Eli Grabenstein. Adam is this year's recipient of the James Brown Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $1,700, managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Brenly Renee Hirschberger. Brenly is this year's recipient of the Frank and Claudia Palumbo Award for Girls Soccer, recognizing her as the girl who never quit. Cassidy Ray Heiser. Cassidy is one of two recipients of the Dally Computer Inc. scholarships in the amount of $1,000. This scholarship is managed by Fort Hill High School. Brianna Lee Jones. Brianna is the recipient of this year's Henry, Dorothy, and David Robertson Scholarship. This scholarship is managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund, and is in the amount of $1,625. Brianna Grace Lavelle. Brianna is this year's recipient of the Girls Wrestling Award as the Outstanding Female Wrestler.
Addison Jean Mallow. Addison is the recipient of this year's Honors Biomedical Innovations Award and the College Biology 101 Award. She is also the recipient of the Jenny Schaefer Memorial Award for cheerleading, and she received the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund Board of Directors Rick Lutert Scholarship in the amount of $2,250. Rory Penner Martz. Rory is this year's recipient of the Science Department Award and the Bittner Softball Award. Rory is also this year's recipient of the Oscar and Mona Goldsboro Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $7,140 and the Alicia M. Cage Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $1,000. Both scholarships are managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Madeline Dawn Maddox. Madeline is this year's recipient of the CSX Community Service Scholarship in the amount of $2,500 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Lucas Alexander McMillan. Lucas is this year's recipient of the Dapper Dan Club Award, sponsored by the Dapper Dan Club. Jaden Elizabeth Malott. Jaden is one of 3 recipients of this year's W. Bruce Lynn Scholarships in the amount of $1,000. This award is managed by Fort Hill High School. Tristan Ralph Melton. Tristan is this year's recipient of the Kenny L. Lowe Memorial Award for Boys Soccer. He is also the recipient of the Paul and Helen Long Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $775 and the BMP Consulting LLC Scholarship in the amount of $1,200. Both scholarships are managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Marlia Iris Morris. Marlia is the recipient of the Jamie Snyder Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $1,280 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Maylee Aaliyah Plummer. Maylee is this year's recipient of several athletic awards to include the Judy Snyder Track Award, the Girls Softball Award, designating her as the Outstanding Senior Player, and the Buck Janke Deeds Not Words Award for her outstanding level of sportsmanship. She is also the female recipient of the F Club Charles Latimer Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $2,475 and the Stephen Stafford Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $1,050. Both scholarships are managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Cameron Nicole Rice. Cameron is this year's recipient of the Honors Physics Award and the George and Cleo Dunlap History Award in the amount of $1,000 managed by Fort Hill High School. Cameron received the Indoor Track Award, the Girls Cross Country Award, and the John F. Armstrong Award as the Outstanding Female Student Athlete. Cameron is also the recipient of this year's J. Robert Heidi Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $1,275 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Kirsten Jean Rice. Kirsten is this year's recipient of the Class of 1969 Scholarship in the amount of $1,250 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund, and the Haley House Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $500 managed by Fort Hill High School. Lily Addison Riley. Lily is this year's recipient of the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund Board of Directors Paul and Charlotte Lapp Scholarship in the amount of $2,250. Phoebe Marie Riley. Phoebe is a recipient of this year's Class of 1958 Norma Shade Eckerd Scholarship in the amount of $1,500 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund, and the Allegheny County Retired School Personnel Scholarship in the amount of $500 managed by Fort Hill High School. Kaylin Elizabeth Robertson. Kaylin is this year's recipient of the College English Award. She is also the recipient of the Fort Hill Class of 1965 Award in the amount of $1,000 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Jalen Brooke Robertson. Jalen is this year's recipient of the Class of 1984 Scholarship in the amount of $2,025 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Sierra Marie Ross. Sierra is the recipient of this year's James and Carol Combs Family Fort Hill Scholarship in the amount of $4,250 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Brenna Caitlin Scarlett. Brenna is this year's recipient of the Class of 1960 Scholarship in the amount of $2,000 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Alexa Madison Schilling. Alexa is this year's recipient of the Sonny Morris Memorial Medical Scholarship in the amount of $1,000 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Dana Renee Smith. Dana is this year's recipient of the Colleen Burke Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $1,500 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Lydia Joy Spano. Lydia is this year's recipient of the Class of 1958 Scholarship in the amount of $1,500 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Addison Beth Stubbe. Addison is one of 3 recipients of the W. Bruce Lynn Scholarships in the amount of $1,000 managed by Fort Hill High School. Landon Andrew Schweitzer. Landon is the recipient of the Elizabeth and Wayne Hill Memorial Award in the amount of $1,000. This award is managed by Fort Hill High School. Gwyneth Starr Vittoriano. Gwyneth is the recipient of this year's James Friend Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $1,100 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Wyatt John Walker. Wyatt is this year's recipient of the Stephen M. Lewis Wrestling Award for the Outstanding Senior Male Wrestler. Nicholas Allen Willison. Nick is the recipient of various athletic awards to include the H. Clifford Spiker Memorial Award as the Outstanding Senior Male Track Athlete, the Bill Hahn Memorial Award, and the James H. Snyder Memorial Award for football. He is also the recipient of this year's Eugene Mason Memorial Award for his noteworthy balance of academics and athletics in the amount of $500. Additionally, Nicholas is the recipient of the Dennis Abey Estate Scholarship in the amount of $1,900 and the Class of 1968 Fred McMillan Scholarship in the amount of $2,000. Both scholarships are managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Gunnar Lee Wilson. Gunnar is this year's recipient of the College Probability and Statistics Award. He is also the recipient of 2 athletic awards, the Brewer Family Boys Tennis Award and the PFC Wellington M. Donahue Memorial Award as the Outstanding Male Student Athlete. Additionally, Gunnar is this year's recipient of the Lois Ann Shipway Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $775 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Madison Page Wolk. Madison is this year's recipient of the Broad and Frediska Award for Cheerleading. She is also this year's recipient of the Class of 1999 Scholarship in the amount of $800 managed by the Fort Hill Scholarship Fund. Talia Benton Young. Talia is this year's recipient of the Brewer Volleyball Award.
Senior award and accolade winners, I appreciate the many efforts you have made to make the most of your time here at Fort Hill. Your dedication to your studies over time and the extra time spent wearing the Fort Hill Sentinel uniform has been such a joy to watch over your time on the Hill. I am honored to be your principal, and I wish you all of the best as you extend your talents beyond the halls, walls, and playing fields of Fort Hill High School. I wish you nothing but the very best. Congratulations, class of 2025. And as always, go Big Red.